And we'll go from here. Well, welcome to the show. This is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and we are so pleased to have you. Those that have not listened to the show, we hope that you will after the show, because this is going to be an exciting one. But we have been on the radio for quite some time now, and what we focus on is really divorce recovery, transition in dating and relationships, and really help you move through with an inspirational, fun aspect of it to really get on with your life, living your best life. So today we're going to move right on into our guest, because we have an awesome guest today. We have the Honorable Sherrill Ellsworth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cece. So happy to be here with you and your listeners today.
Oh, it is great having you. I tell you, you've been on the bench for about, 20 years, and now you're retired, and you've really kind of redefined and restructured your life. And I wanted to be able to share that with the audience, because I think it's so important as we travel through divorce. It's so important to be able to, really kind of take a fresh breath, so to speak, and really move forward. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into, being a judge and then being retired and moving in through to your new career.
So thank you so much for asking about that transition and about my journey, because I think everybody's journey is part of the story we need to tell and part of the sharing that needs to go on. And that's why a format such as yours is so important, because people often feel so isolated and alone. And when you start hearing stories and journeys, you realize many of us are in the same boat. We just have different paddles, right?
Right.
So my journey began with the idea of going to law school, because I was in the throes of a very awful, ugly, hurtful, painful divorce. And I was a soon-to-be single mom of four little children, actually, because I was in the throes of adopting a child as well. And had no skills that I could think of in order to take care of my children, to pay the bills. I had been a homemaker, and I had taken a few theater arts classes at the local, junior college. And that was not going to take care of these kids, especially when I figured out very soon that my soon-to-be ex-husband was going to flake, essentially, and disappear from the picture or cause a lot of trouble. So fast forward, at that point, I decided to go to law school, tested in, and went into law school, and then started doing law, and found that a lot of my career was helping other people. Did not do family law, had no interest in family law. In fact, I had to go with my sister once to family law court, and I remember taking the file and throwing it on the sidewalk and looking at her and her soon-to-be ex and saying, I'm not doing this. This is too hard. This is too much pressure. You guys need to figure it out. Had the great fortune of going on the bench when I was 36 years old, which is pretty young for a judge. And one of my first assignments after criminal was family law. And everybody goes kicking and screaming. I'll tell you the dirty little secret behind the Oz curtain, that mostly, except for those few that really have transitioned from family law to the bench, most of the rest of us don't want to be there at first. But I fell in love with it, because I found that family law and helping families in this fractured time was the most important work that I could ever do on the bench. It was difficult, it was stressful, but it was really a passion of mine. And I think what I felt the most frustration at, Cece, was not being able to fix everyone, not being able to resolve everything, because you have these folks that are, we like to say this, that when you do criminal law, which I did a lot of cases, sent a lot of people to state prison, had a lot of criminal trials, you have sort of the worst of society, but they're on their best behavior. When you're in family law, you have your neighborhood cop or teacher or checker at the grocery store, the best of society, the mayor, whatever it is, but they're usually at the worst of their behavior. And you understand why. They've been thrust into an adversarial process that kind of chews up people with limited time and resources with courts. So I then developed the opportunity to be supervising in different positions and end up being presiding judge of one of the largest counties in California. And after I did my time on the bench, I decided that there was still a lot of passion left in me to help families resolve their differences. And so because of that, I've retired, but now I have two careers. My husband just shakes his head as he goes off with the lunchbox every day to work. The first is I work in SmartCourt, which is a fabulous concept of mediation. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more in the opportunity to mediate cases. So I do mediation, private judging, arbitration, where I try to help people by giving them the view of an eye from a bench officer who was in the trenches for almost 20 years. And then really exciting is I have paired with some phenomenal individuals, and we have an upstart company called CoParenter, and we are a web-based, app-based function that allows, or platform that allows for co-parenters to be child-centered, not only in their communications, but in learning the process of how to better take their dialogue and use it in a way not to wound each other, but to really effectively not only move on, but learn to co-parent into the future in a way that helps children to thrive. We're not just a journal or a calendar, because they have that on the web right now. They have some ones that are quite effective at journaling or talking to one another. Ours has a further component. It has education. It has tonality deciphers on it, but it also has a connection to a professional, whether it's a mediator, a retired judge, a therapist, a divorce coach, or any of these type of professionals to actually in real time help these individuals get beyond it. So that's coparenter.org. I'm giving you a great plug right now. It's coming to every state, and I think that you'll find your viewers, your listeners, especially the ones that are trying to move on with their lives in terms of that embattlement over children, may find it to be a really effective tool. So that's what I'm busy doing. I'm trying to still help people help themselves. And part of that is moving on, Cece, like you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's terrific. You know, I wanted to bring you on the show because I wanted people to see that judges are real people. They're just like, you know, you and I, you know, and they live their lives and they do want to help, but sometimes their hands are so tied. And so mediation, I feel, is the new wave of divorce. It's a way we can really look at. I mean, arbitration, don't get me wrong, is there, and there's a really good need for attorneys. And I think that, you know, I'm not bashing attorneys at all. What I want to do is embrace that and look at mediation as being something that we should really try to strive to do, to try to talk with our other partner, you know, our ex-partner, soon-to-be ex-partner, and try to come up with some sort of resolution that's going to be beneficial to our entire family versus, you know, being in a big argument, spending a lot of money and coming out, you know, expecting the judge that doesn't know us to make a decision that's going to, you know, be our whole life. And so I love what you do. I love the idea of your business, the mediation part of it. And we'll talk about both of your businesses because I think they're very, very important. But the mediation part that you have, which is called the SmartCourt 360 approach. So tell us a little bit about that. And then we'll move into this exciting new business that you have that you're really, really focused on. And I think it'll really help people. So tell us a little bit about it's called the SmartCourt 360 approach.
So before I do that, let me tap onto what you said and elaborate a little bit if I can. So I too love attorneys. I love attorneys. I love the legal system. I love the courts. But family law doesn't fare well there. And there's a couple of reasons why. It's an adversarial proceeding. And we have not been able to figure out how to take that adversarial piece out of it, because lawyers are trained to be advocates. And we thrust them into a situation with very limited time. And as you said, a stranger in a black robe that doesn't know anything about your children, doesn't know the color of their eyes, their preferences, whether they'd rather do Xbox or play soccer or eat ice cream or strawberry or chocolate or anything about your children except for what you in very limited ways on pieces of paper and through attorneys or on your own stammering try to impart to that individual as fast as you can at speed light, while the next case and the next case and then the next case comes through in a very public form. In a very public form, you're divulging all the intimacies of your very private lives in this kind of melee, if you will. And the judge is doing their best, even if they seem cranky, even if they seem distraught or even short with you. They're really trying to do their best to process in a very quick manner the entirety of your life. And that is just not the format that I think anyone would want to put their lives in the hands of in that. Not that they don't trust the judge or the lawyers, but we're making generational decisions. The decisions that are made in family law have a ripple effect forever. And so for me, if it were me, I want to say, I want to be in charge. I want to be a part of that generational decision making. I don't want the fight. And a model of mediation can give those individuals their day in court, but it's the right day in court. It's the opportunity to have face time with a professional like a retired judge or a mediator who has been trained, and they actually get to vent and talk and have a display of what's really going on. It's different. It's like saying in court it's a snapshot, no matter how hard the judge works or the attorneys work. But in mediation, you get to give the video log. You get to give the whole life story because you're in a private setting. You are having a dialogue, and you have a helper trying to figure out what is at the bottom of this. What's the aha issue? How can we help you move past this? What can you give and take? It's not about he or she and she listing all their wants and needs and then just dividing it in half. That's not what mediation is about. It's not even about just everybody giving and taking. It's about a coordinated effort to look at what's best for this family. Now that this family has transitioned to being different, because they still are a family, even if there are no children. You are always connected in some way to the past. And so it's a way for you to be able to be satisfied because you get a say in this. You get to work through this. I can't imagine, I don't know about you, Cece, but I can't imagine in my life giving up control about anything, let alone about the most intimate and important things in my life. And that's what we do day after day after day. We just throw in our dice, if you will, and let it roll. And we take chances. And then we have to live with those orders afterwards. Where mediation models allows you to find out what the best you is and the best scenario for your family. So I think mediation, I think you're absolutely right. I wish everybody, not because it's the way I make my living, but it's the way I am satisfied. As a judge, I would do my best. And I was really conscientious, I think. But even my best wasn't enough for most families that were in acrimony or in conflict. You know, most families, a lot of families don't even go to court. They just resolve it on their own, or they may come for hiccups. But those that are entrenched, those that really need support and help, traditional court is not going to give them that satisfaction or that assistance that they need, unless they're just looking for closure and orders and finality. You get that in court. You can get a trial. You can spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you can take a little bit of money and go and be in a more relaxed situation and use a coach, a mediator, a therapist, a trained professional to sit down and say, hey, Cece, what is really at this? It seems to me that you are really concerned about the children's after-school sports. Talk to me about that. Tell me why that is something that's important to you. And you see how even just that moment, that taking a beat, changes the tonality of the proceedings. Whereas if you were in court, it would be you accusing him or her of not participating in the sports and ruining the kids' lives and trying to get in the way of, you've heard it, right?
I have, yes.
Listeners, you probably lived it. We all have. Well, most of us have. And so that's why I think the model of mediation is much more child-centered. And even if you don't have children, it is much more human-centered, because you are not in Calcutta in the throes of rush hour. I mean, you know what that court scene's like. Some of the things that people would tell me as a judge, with the entire audience being filled with strangers, I mean, my heart would just skip a beat, because I would think, I can't believe that they are disclosing these things out of desperation. I'm not criticizing, but out of desperation, to a courtroom of strangers, to a mess, to a stranger in a black robe, to make those important decisions. I mean, do you really want a stranger to make those decisions? You wouldn't let them in any other place in your life. But we do that because that's the system we've been dealt.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we've done for years. And so just like anything, we need change. And, it seems like the family law arena is just not changing, and the volume is it's just astronomical with people getting divorced more and more. And so I just like the mediation, and I don't do mediation, so I have nothing to really gain by it, although I'm thinking about being a mediator because I love it so much, and I love the idea of being able to help people like you said. But the thing is, what I'm finding is that I have been talking with I have a divorce support group with a lot of individuals, and it seems like their personalities, of course, as they're going through divorce, and they're clashing tremendously.
Right.
And I think the aspect of what you do in your particular business and some of the others that I've talked to with bringing forward a coach that they can kind of help, and they can see they can see, okay, well, the other person is in pain. This is why they're feeling this. This is why they're going through, why they're saying, what they're saying. And so they're able to kind of help work through some of those things, like you said, by just simply the way they ask the questions. But you don't get that in court. You don't get that at all. It's, it's pretty black and white. It's very quick. They are on a time schedule. They need to move forward. And so you really don't get that. So I really do like the mediation aspect. I like what you're doing. You combine, like you said, the coach, your previous experience being on the bench, the attorney aspect of it. I believe you have someone else that works with you on the business.
Right.
Yeah.
I do why we call SmartCourt the 360 approach is that, as a judge, I made a lot of decisions. And after doing that for 20 years, you cannot change part of that brain so that I don't slip back into decision making. And mediation isn't necessarily about decision making. So with my partner, who is a longtime mediator, litigator, who's been in the biz, we try to have a full brain, if you will. So we can talk about the perspective of a litigator, what your case looks like, what you're going through, as well as what the probable outcome at court is, along with models of mediation where we don't even make any decisions at all. We just are massaging you to make the decisions that are best for you as an individual. At court, lots of people say this. I mean, it's almost become like something that'll pop up on the internet, that if both of you go out miserable or unhappy, then the court has achieved their job because both of you should be a little dissatisfied. I don't like that model when it talks about moving on or your life or things that are important. Why not everybody have some level of satisfaction instead? You can't have a level of satisfaction, I don't believe, in the battle. You might have little, small moments of a gotcha, or I won, or this mattered and this was my, I got a leg up on you. But in mediation, that's not important anymore. In mediation, it is a matter of dialoguing and finessing and trying to work with the individual so that we can better communicate. Let me give you just an example. We have 6 children. My husband and I have completely different personalities. He's a dentist. And so he was raised on a ranch, and he is a black and white integrity and security and, toe the line kind of guy. So, and I am, out there. I'm the, legal mind, but I'm, the artsy and the interesting and the passionate, and he's the Mr. Toe the line. So one of our daughters, who's now a great attorney and has just decided to go into family law, she's a baby attorney and was with the district attorney's office, and she's now going into family law, and I'm really proud of her because she's going to do some great work. But they would just butt heads. I mean, as a teenage girl, they would butt heads. And I would have the 2 of them in a room. And I remember very specifically saying, Dad would talk, and I would say to our daughter, Dana, what Dad is saying is da 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 da. I'm translating. I'm like, it's like they're speaking a foreign language. And then she would say something, and I would say, honey, what Dana's trying to express to you with, lots of love and lots of emoting. And I would literally do this pattern of mediation to resolve small family conflict. And it's almost laughable. And we talk about it now, but she's an adult, and she's a great adult, a great woman, and has gone to law school, and she's a mom herself and has these 2 precious kids. But we talked about how when you can let the air out a little bit and get people to talk and get people to be able to express in a language and that everybody's communicating the same, then you can really accomplish some great things. Do I think that everybody's going to be Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin and conscientiously uncouple and go on family vacations together? No, we don't. We can't afford the nannies and the cooks and those kinds of vacations that allow us to flourish. That's not reality. But I do think this, Cece, that you can gauge your ability to be in a social function and treat each other with civility. That's a win-win.
Yeah.
If you can go to the kids' soccer game, or you can go to the wedding where you have mutual friends and you can act civilly to one another, as opposed to having that level of tension and acrimony and hate gnarl up your life, because it really is. It reminds me of like when you have that oak tree that's grown around a little wedge that was put there a million years ago, you know, and then all of a sudden the tree completely shatters because of a small little wedge that wasn't extracted. If we can just extract the wedges so that we can grow a whole grove of healthy kids and families and adults, then you and I have really done something unique, Cece. And I'm sure you see those kinds of things in your support groups, which I think is a great idea. You know, we send people to AA to get rid of their addictions, and we send people to support groups for their service and their PTSD, their military service, and you can name it. But we don't give enough services, I don't think, to people that really are going through the grieving process. They're mourning the life they thought they had, the life they thought they were going to live. And that's a big thing to mourn. That's a big
Absolutely.
to get over.
Yeah.
You know, especially
a lot of
if there's
losses. Yeah,
a lot of processing.
Yeah, a lot. You go through a lot of losses in divorce, and I don't need to tell you that, but you go through so many different phases. And so I think a divorce support group really helps you get through with like-minded people, and it really helps you to be able to move forward that. So tell us how we can get a hold of you through the SmartCourt 360. Can you tell us that website?
Yes, it is www.smartcourt.com. And that'll give you our webpage. We also have a Facebook page, which is the SmartCourt Facebook. And you can email us. You can take a look at the webpage. You can use it to contact us, fill out forms. We're based in California, but we travel. We do, you know, thank goodness for the web, right?
Yeah.
I can sit here and have this interview with you in one of my offices and look outside, and you're in sunny Florida, and I happen to be right now in the state of Washington. And if your viewers could see, I've got about 15 inches of snow outside my window, and I bet you're in flip-flops in that sunny.
Sundresses and flip-flops. Yeah,
it's fabulous.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to be helpful to you and assistive to you through the web in a live time, and or in person if attorneys want to use the services, and or people that have means to do that. But we have lots of available things. And also, we can help you find, if we're not the correct match, I would encourage your viewers to find the right mediator, to find the person that is able to click with their style, to take a look. You know, almost anybody can be a mediator, and that is good if you're good, but not so good if you're a charlatan, if you will. So make sure you look at their credentials. Make sure when you're electing to use a mediator, and I always say this, when I was a judge and people couldn't get along, because your viewers might say, oh, sure, we can't even pick a mediator. There's no way. You know, one of you decide to get 3 mediators, and the other one gets to pick out of the 3. Go back to rock, paper, scissors of your childhood if you have to, you know. But find one that matches. And there are great mediators that may not have a legal background, but have been like you, have been running support groups and have done the training. And that's okay too. The mediator that works for you is the mediator that is of the most worth to you. So I think that you can come to our website, smartcourt.com, one word, all mushed together. You can look at my profile, look at Kelly Bennett's. She's much more photogenic than I am, and a lot more energetic. She even surfs, so we'll bring her down to Florida. But look at the website, and so that if you don't use us, it'll give you, I think, an opportunity to compare to what other people have in your area, and also what's available to you. Because if you don't have the right mediator, then what you've done is wasted your time. And that to me is really, that just makes me heartsick to think that you have essentially gone to court and not had a good experience, then gone to mediation and not had a good experience. well, it's time to look in the mirror, but you want to make sure also that you've been paired with the right tools and the right individuals to help you.
Right. And the other thing I might add is that if you decide you want to try out mediation, try to go in it with the right attitude. Go in with the attitude that, you want to try to come to some sort of, not everything's going to be perfect, and that you're going to try to come to some sort of means that will be equitable for both parties, and you can move forward. And I think that's so important, isn't it?
Well, I think that it is critical. In fact, in our mediation model, we do a kind of a meet and greet to start with. Before you even come into mediation, we either have you in person or on audio or on video and audio is our preference. And we say, here's what your expectations, here's what our expectations are. It is your attitude and your ability to come in here and make the most of the time together that is going to be critical as to whether we have resolution. All of your viewers need to understand, we hear this a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, your listeners, and maybe it'll touch some of their hearts just to think and stop for a moment. Everybody seems to be these days married to a narcissist or a monster or a control freak or an awful person. I mean, your partner, co-parenter, is just horrible and doing everything they can to make your life tragic. Unfortunately, your co-parenter and or your past partner may be saying the same things about you. And what happens is everybody gets very entrenched in their position. And we have this notion of, after watching lots of TV shows like Law and Order and Judge Judy, and I'm not criticizing any of those, or CSI, we have this notion of fairness and justice. And we have made a decision that our life and what's happened to us is not fair and just. And if you come in all tangled up in that ball, the mediation probably will not be as successful. If you come in, however, and say, I want to move on. I want a life, because let me tell you something. There is life after divorce. There is life after separation. In fact, it can be the best life you've ever led because you're a little wiser, a little kinder, a little more patient. If you've done this right, your heart is bigger. I always say it this way. If your heart has been smashed to pieces, I mean shattered, if you allow for it, when it restructures itself, it seems to me it becomes much more soft and pliable. Or it can be very hard and you can be miserable. But if you allow it to be soft and pliable and you entrench yourself in serving other people, volunteering, coming to the support group, even if you have moved on, to be helpful to that young single mom that has limited resources that needs to say, here you say, you know what, honey, you're going to get through this and you're going to be a better person. Encouraging people to get their education, encouraging them to do whatever they haven't been able to do before. Think of it this way. If nothing else, you get to decide if you're going to have pizza on Tuesday night without having a conference with another person. You get to decide that. You get all the control back in your life. And people can look on the bright side of this, or they can be absolutely stymied and stilted. It's as if their childhood and their life just stands still. And every hurt they've ever had and every disappointment they've ever had is compacted into this one event, the breakdown of their fairy tale. And I think it's so important for people to know there is life after divorce, and it can be a really good life. It may not be the life you thought you were going to have, but it could be the life that you not only dreamed of, but you yourself took charge of and took control of.
Yeah, that is so great. Well, what we're going to do is let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about your business, your other business that you have, because I think it is just like on the new wave, and it's very exciting.
It is exciting.
It'll embrace those that are traveling through divorce, so I think it's wonderful. So This is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have the Honorable Sherrill Ellsworth with us, and we'll be right back. We're going to talk about more great stuff, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to come right back then. Well, thank you for grabbing that cup of coffee or that glass of wine if you'd like. And we want to welcome back the Honorable Sherrill Ellsworth. We are talking with her today. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is Cece with Going Solo. We were talking about the first part of the show, and we might have to break this into part one and a part two, but the first part of the show, we talked a little bit about her background. She has been on the bench for about 20 years. She's retired. She's really kind of started her life over again in a new, exciting way, helping others through divorce. And she has a very cool website, which is called the SmartCourt.com. We talked about that the first part of the show, but we're going to move forward into her new venture that she's into, which is very, very exciting, and that is the CoParenter.org. So welcome back to the show, Sherrill.
Thank you so much, Cece, and such a sorry about that. I had a little phone call at the same time. So it's such a pleasure to be back here with you and talking about CoParenter. You can find us on the web. We are CoParenter, one word, .org, or on Facebook, CoParenter Facebook, as well as your Apple Store has an app now that we have just been approved. So it's very exciting to me. Listen, I am a technology dinosaur, so I would like to let you think that I'm the one that created this platform, but I am not. I am paired with some brilliant tech people and team. And when you look on our website, you can see the brilliant guys that I am paired with, and they are people that are dedicated to doing good in the world. So it's kind of a unique business from a business standpoint and something of the future where we're essentially do-gooders, but hope to get a profit someday from our doing well in the community. So I am the legal piece of this, or the community liaison between the courts and CoParenter and anything that comes within trying to get this out and usable into the regular hands of courts and families. So what CoParenter is a platform on the web, and it's an app that allows for co-parenters, parents of children, to communicate in a way that is not just journaling. There are lots of really good programs out there that allow for parents to kind of keep track and journal. And so basically it's building evidence to take into court. See, I let him know that there was a school function. See, I let her know that I had a family reunion coming up. We have that function, but that's a very, I would say, basic function of CoParenter. CoParenter's platform is much more than that. It has components of education. So let's say you're filling out part of our CoParenter survey and information sheet, and it talks about how you feel about your partner. And the tonality of what you have to say is pretty high on the negative scale. You might get what's called a nudge, and the nudge is a stop where it says, did you know that children are affected by the level of acrimony between parents? That we know that kids are really resilient, but we know they are really affected by the level of tension between the parents. So it's not the divorce that kills children's lives. It is the ongoing battle that they see that has a very negative impact.
Oh, that's so true.
So you get nudges in education.
Mm-hmm.
You also get the opportunity to create an ask. So you and I are partners, Cece, and we have a child in common. And this coming weekend is your weekend, but I got tickets to a play that's opening up that I know our child will have an interest. So my ask, I get on the computer, and my ask to Cece is, do you think we could switch weekends? I've got this play. Then you get to respond to me, no, yes, or need more information. Need more information, and then I can respond to you in real time. We can ask and go back and forth. Then we get to an impasse because you had something kind of special also planned. And so at that impasse, we can plug into a professional right there, a therapist, a coach, a master, a referee, a past retired judge, a therapist, you name it, mediator, and they can help us try to sort that little issue out in real time and plug you into that. If in fact this is a symptom of a greater problem, then you can engage that professional later on a different contract. So we have educational films, we have nudges of trying to teach you how to be child-centric. We have a sister company, a great web magazine, and I would encourage your listeners to take a look at it. Kids Before Conflict, where I write articles, other professionals write and submit articles, everything to do with being child-centric. And that's what CoParenter is. CoParenter is the little conscience. In my day, we saw Pinocchio. That's probably old school. They'll probably remake it into something with CGI. But Pinocchio was it. And Jiminy Cricket was our conscience, right?
Right.
It's the little conscience that's going to help you to remember that it's not about Cece and Sherrill. It's about Junior. It's about our kids and what kind of impact and what kind of story we're going to have for them to tell. I often think about if we had the foresight to figure out how they will tell the story, we wouldn't do some of the things that we do that are hurtful. Those ears, they really are, they hear everything, they see everything, and it has a direct effect. You can have a child that is thriving, doing great, and then all of a sudden, they don't do well anymore. And the parents are scratching their heads saying, it must be her fault. It must be his fault, because our child always did great until they spent time with their dad or they spent time with their mom. In reality, a child's very smart, even from those little bitties. They know if they get Student of the Month, that Student of the Month has a time when both parents would have to be in the same place at the same time. And their stomach just starts to get knots. And rather than bring angry mom and angry dad who will both vie for the attention at that occasion, they'd rather not attend the assembly at all. So they don't thrive or strive to be Student of the Month anymore. They quit playing soccer because they don't know who to look at after they've scored the goal or who to go to first after the play is finished. This platform that we are creating in real time, and I think because it is a tech company, it really will speak to the millennials. It'll really speak to the way that that the millennials communicate. Not me. I paused for a moment, and you got a big smile on your face because you and I are probably around the same age.
Yeah.
And so that when I say I'm a tech dinosaur, I'm learning that people don't write letters anymore, or they don't pick up the phone anymore. That most dialogue takes place at rapid speed. So we address that. And I'm so excited about it. And we're doing pilots, and people can get on the pilot. And if they go to their website and they request information, they can not only get on the pilot, they can also send in emails, and I'm answering their questions. And it takes a lot of time, and I'm very thoughtful about it. We do not dispense legal advice. Let me just say that very clearly. This is not a legal advice forum. This is not to tell you how to best raise this issue in court, but it is a way to help you to be child-centered in your decision-making, and really helping you to if you have somebody that you really are dealing with that's difficult, maybe give you a little insulation and teach you how to parallel parent, where you actually just do your own tracks but communicate through a web-based platform. Or if you're in between and you get along sometimes and you don't get along other times, but you really do love your child and you both are pretty focused on that, it will enhance that and help you to be great co-parenters.
It sounds like a great learning tool too because we're not taught to be parents. We don't. I used to tell my daughter that all the time. I say, you didn't come with a manual, So I was a very young mom. I was extremely young, and so I always tell her that if you're screwed up, it's your fault because I was just a kid.
Yeah.
So
it really is true. It really is true, and I think that people that are searching can come to this and get experts. We have such incredible input from the experts, and like I said, our sister e-magazine essentially is Kids Before Conflict, and you can read small vignettes of things that I think are really beneficial to parents that will strike a chord in your listeners about how to parent, how to not only parent but how to co-parent once there's divorce or separation, which is really critical. You're right. I do a much better job of grandparenting than I did as a parent because we are learning it for the first time. And back when I was raising children, and I would venture to say, Cece, when you were, there wasn't this World Wide Web that you could Google and figure out. You couldn't have access at your fingertips to experts and information the way you can now. So now, really, shame on you if we aren't co-parenting and being child-centered, because the information is available to you. And that's what our platform and our tool does, is allow you to get the help that you need. And it's not in a, no one's going to wag their finger at you. That's not the point. We don't want anyone to feel bad or discouraged, and we're not here to be corrective. We have put in place some really important, very important constraints that deal with issues like domestic violence. We don't want to ever assume that people just get along when there's domestic violence involved. There are triggers within our program that alert to that, and we have lots of information with regard to that, and that's very critical and important, because domestic violence changes everything. It changes the scenery very quickly, and we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I so understand. Yeah, I think it's really great. I mean, like back in our day, we had to go to the library and get a book, and we had to read all, because I used to read all the time because I wanted to be the best parent I could be. And I will tell you that my daughter did grow up to be very great.
Despite us, right?
Yeah,
both of us.
Yeah, no matter how much I screwed up, she seems to come through. So I'm blessed. I'm actually blessed. I have great children. But it is just nice to be able to have that information at your fingertips and so readily available right there on the internet. Now, how do people, do they join? Is it like a community that they join, a membership type of fee?
Currently we are, go to the website and go to the Facebook, and it'll walk you through that. Currently we are piloting, but we know we're going to we're going to roll this out in a big, big way. We are really on the verge of rolling it all out. We're piloting in different states, different communities and counties. So it's something that's really great. The other thing that I forgot to mention is we have a component that synchronizes your calendars.
Wow.
So is that cool? Again, the tech in me, the non-tech in me forgot some of the cool features. And there are lots of those cool features that are plugged into the platform. So go to the platform. Go to CoParenter, all one word, .org, and play with it, and look at our Facebook, and go to Kids Before Conflict, the magazine that's online, and play with it and take a look at it, and you'll see where you can ask more questions and get invited. And Cece and I were talking about both of us were up rather late last night. I hope I'm not disclosing anything, answering emails, and that's what I was doing. Is some of our individuals that have come onto the Facebook or onto the platform had questions, and I personally was answering those questions and trying to be very thoughtful and concerned about your particular needs and your particular co-parenting issues, and that's what our platform does. So I'm excited about, I think anybody that is a parent who is trying to really navigate these choppy waters of co-parenting, I think they'll get excited too, because there's a lot of hopelessness that's out there. I'm sure you can hear the despair, and people are really, I think the deepest level of distraught or despair that I've heard has to do with kids. Yeah. It has to do with kids. And I, Cece, I made orders all day long having to do with kids. I made them because I was a judge. That's what I had to do. I made travel orders. I made all kinds of orders. And now that I'm outside and I pull back a little bit and I think about some of those orders, that even ones that people agreed to, what they actually meant in real time to children and families, it makes me heartsick. I was traveling not too long ago, a few years ago, I think is when I had one of my first aha moments as a judge. And I was traveling, it was holidays, and Southwest, I'll put a plug in for them because no change rates or whatever their plug is, but Southwest Airlines. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw this little darling little child who had eyes that just looked a little frightened to me. They didn't say anything. They had their backpack on. They had their lanyard with their ID. And it dawned on me that in that holiday season, that some judge or some parent or somebody somewhere agreed to or ordered that baby would get on a plane solo under the care of these airline attendants who do the best they can, sitting next to somebody who's a stranger, and being flown across the country into the hands of the recipient parent. And I thought to myself, we got this wrong. We got this wrong. we're making orders and doing things all day long that appease the adults in the room without a real concern about the people it will affect the most, and that's the kids in the room. And that's really the first sparks for me of changing how I made orders and how I tried to delve in the best I could as a judge, but certainly was the leap that I'm taking now, because those are not good orders. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not. Parents need to think about what we are doing to affect those kids. And I have interviewed and talked to and listened to at different judicial conferences and other formats, children who were children of divorce, who had to follow the court's orders and had to deal with their parents. And their tales aren't very good. They usually start saying something like this: growing up, I hated the holidays, ... Growing up, I hated the weekends, ... Growing up, I quit doing this because of ... And that is sad. We like to blame video games, but I think we have to take a little responsibility in this. Yeah.
Well, there's different things that you can do. And just as the flying, it came to mind, my son flew and he was young and he would have to fly, and we're just 4 hours. So it was just like really an hour flight for him. But I remember the first time he did it, my ex flew with him to me and then flew back. Yeah. Right. So this way he did it, he was able to not be alone the very first time. So, I think as parents, we really do need to put our ourselves in their shoes and try to experience what they're experiencing so we can try to help them along with that. So, yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much. I know that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It has to be.
I think that when you can do reflection, if you can really look at yourself and be honest about choices that you've made and then grow from that, that's a very positive thing. I would not have been coupled with the CoParenter program or with SmartCourt had I not had those experiences of feeling that hopelessness and helplessness on the bench. I could only do so much. See, I am unfettered now. I can say what I'm really thinking about your case. I can say what's really on my mind. And as a judge, you have canons and you have decorum and rightfully so. But now you can't stop what I have to say. I can say, are you crazy? What are you talking about? Why are you arguing about the kid's birthday? You have it on his actual birthday and you have it the next day. What kid doesn't want 2 birthday cakes? What kid doesn't want 2 jumpy things in the backyard and people celebrating? I said, as an adult, I want that. So let's be realistic. As a judge, I just listen and make an order, and somebody gets a birthday on the date and somebody else gets the artificial date. But as an advocate for children or an advocate for moving on, I can say, come on, be real. Let's figure this out. And I do think that with people that are hurting, divorce and breaking up, they're hurting. It is hard not to transfer that pain to your children. If you can be successful in that little piece of your hurting world, if you can successfully co-parent, then I think it also starts to shine light in other pieces of your life. But I think so often, maybe there's been an affair, maybe there's been infidelity, maybe there's been spending all the money, maybe there's been, hey, I've stayed home and I'm not appreciated. All the ugly hurts that can really do a number on a person's self-worth and feeling about themselves, and then go to court and battering. It's really hard to try to compartmentalize or separate your hurt, your difficulties from some of the tasks that are required of you. And so if you can compartmentalize and maybe put some tasks into compartments and just deal with those simple tasks and be successful at little building blocks at a time. And I would say if you have children, that should be the first one, the first box you open, you unwrap. Then you can start to feel successful in the next little box that you open and the next little box. It isn't something that happens overnight. And so, but it also is something that if it doesn't start to happen, then it may never happen for you, which is very, you've seen people like that who have been divorced for years and still can't get on.
Right. Well, also, just to add to that is redirecting yourself. So, you know, even though you're feeling the pain, and that's probably going to happen for quite some time, you just kind of redirect your energies and your thoughts and your movements into something different, something that's more positive. And of course, you know, helping your children adjust is certainly, you know, one of the most important things. And so when you redirect yourself, then what you find out is that you don't hurt quite so much. You know, it kind of clouds that over a little bit for you and redirects that energy. So it's a very positive thing. Well, I thank you so much for being on the show. And those you listeners that have just tuned into this part of it, we are going to have a part 1 and a part 2, because I wanted to be able to share everything that the Honorable Sherrill Ellsworth is doing, because she has, in her part 1, shared her story of her own personal endeavors as she went through, you know, divorce and redefining her life and into the path of being a judge, and then moving into retirement, still helping people in not only her community, but also, I think, really all over. You know, with the web, you can be in contact with anyone at any time, and so it's just awesome. So I hope that you will listen to both part 1 and part 2 of this show, and I think it's it'll change your life if you're going through divorce. I think this will definitely help you move forward with both of the 2 businesses that she has now, that she's working to help those that are creating a life after divorce. So I think it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cece. It's been such a pleasure, and I really do hope it helps your listeners, because you, me, we want people to move on and redirect and to be happy again. Because there is life after divorce. There's a lot of life.
There is. I'm into radio, and look at you. You're into both of these 2 wonderful businesses. So it's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, I mean, it's redirecting that negative energy that you have and moving it into something positive. So that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Well, this is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We did have the Honorable Sherrill Ellsworth with us, and I hope that you will listen to part 1 and part 2 of this show that we have today. So bye for now, and we'll see you next time.